What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope you're all doing well. I have a special guest. This is Ryan McNeill. Ryan, how are you?
Good. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Jake.
Of course. So let's start off. Let's talk about some football. So Lamar Jackson, I talked about this yesterday. He requested a trade. It happened back on March 2nd. Didn't come in. It just bled out yesterday. So what are your thoughts on Lamar requesting a trade?
I think it makes sense, especially given what the Ravens have put in front of him while he's been there. I think he's an exceptional talent. He has an MVP under his belt, and obviously he's a running quarterback, but I still think he's a better passer than we've ever seen from a guy like a Michael Vick or RG3 when he had that one great season. And the best receiver Lamar's had to throw to was, who are we talking? Marquise Brown, Rashad Bateman. I mean, he hasn't even had like a solid number two. He's had Mark Andrews, a great tight end. But I think the request is very warranted given what they put in front of him, what they plan to put in front of him. I mean, their big move was to get Nelson Aguilar, who is just a drop machine
He's got
after
no
coming off of
hands.
two unproductive seasons with the Patriots. They've just given him washed player after washed player. And even if you want to say, oh, Mark Andrews, he's getting kind of older. I'm very happy trying to get out of there.
Yeah, I'm split because, like you said, they have not given him enough. I mean, like you said, he's a running quarterback, and they have not built around him properly. Like they've given him the time he needs in Mark Andrews, and they've given him a good running game. Their running backs can't stay healthy, but they've been able to overall find pretty decent running back. You had Mark Ingram had that one really good year. You had J.K. Dobbins when he's been healthy, even Gus Edwards when he's been healthy. I think if those two guys stay healthy, they're very good. But outside of the MVP, first of all, the offensive line has not been that great.
No,
Staley can't stay on the
no.
field. Now Ben Powers is I think, in Denver now. And like you said, his best receiver is Marquise Brown, who I do like. But,
As a number one, though, come on.
I think he's a very good number two. I don't know if he's a number, just because of his speed. I don't know if he's truly a number one. I mean, he had 1,100 yards his last year in Baltimore, but he's not. Who else is he throwing to? He's getting
And
so
even,
many reps.
and like we agree, Marquise Brown, like a really solid player. They couldn't even re-sign him.
Yeah, yeah, because Marquise Brown just said, like, look, I love Lamar. He's I don't think it's his cousin or I think they're just close friends somehow.
Yeah, I can't remember how it was.
They are very close friends. It's like Lamar's my guy, but you know, like I for me this isn't the right
Yeah,
fit.
business decision.
They're like they run the ball 35 times a game. Like come on.
Yeah. And Greg Roman's offense is, I
Oh
feel like,
god.
very hit or miss. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, like
No,
if you
really
can,
needs to have a job. Yeah.
yeah, if you have like a mediocre defensive line, they can run 300 yards on you.
Yeah.
But I've seen Greg Roman do like a QB sneak from the 3 yard line where he's just almost unwilling to experiment with the passing game almost. And I understand that probably that comes from their lack of wide receiver depth. But I think that's another reason why Lamar probably wants to get out of there. And Harbaugh, who I think is a solid coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, he's won one playoff game in the last 10 years or
That's
something.
true.
I mean, I think he should be on the hot seat a lot more than he
He
already
should.
is.
I agree. I talked about that. This is probably like right when the season ended. I believe, or maybe that was just off camera. I forget. But Harbaugh, he's done a good job there. He's been there. I think since like 2008. He's been there a long time. They're always competitive. He does have a Super Bowl ring.
Mm,
But like you said, he has not been out of second round. I don't think since they won the Super Bowl actually. Maybe once or twice since they won the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl in 2011.
yeah.
That was the Joe Flacco year. And like you can say, they point the finger at other people. You pointed at John Martin there. You got rid of him. And now you get rid of Greg Roman, which granted Greg Roman deserved to get
Yeah.
fired. But obviously you pointed the finger of they had injuries, especially to Lamar. But at this point, I don't really know what else his excuse is.
Yeah. And I was like, that was a good point with the injuries with Lamar, where I'm happy he's getting out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think he deserves every cent that he's asking for? I'm not sure because he
I
had the
know.
great MVP season. I think he will be perform much better and produce much better with more talent around him.
Mm-hmm.
However, these last two seasons are working against him.
Yes.
He has had two okay seasons. He played, I believe, 12 games in both of them. He just hasn't been able to stay out there, and the team's record hasn't been great. Now, do I think a lot of that's roster construction? Yes. The quarterback's most important position on the field. Lamar is one of the reasons their record wasn't as great as it could be, though. But I still think he's one of the top, certainly top 10, maybe top 5 quarterbacks in the game, though.
I would say he's a top 10 quarterback. I would say he's in the top 10. But like you said, I think the whole reason is so he wants. I know there's like at first we were saying he wants 250 guaranteed. Now I'm hearing he might not want every single penny of that, but still let's say 200 guaranteed at least. the guys are running quarterback. Running quarterbacks tend to break down kind of early.
Mm,
You look at Cam Newton. Cam Newton was an MVP, and it looked
yeah.
like overnight he couldn't throw the ball more than 3 yards.
Yeah.
You look at even Michael Vick. He was out of the league for a couple of years because he was in
Different circumstances.
yeah, different circumstances.
But yeah.
But yeah, at the end he had the hamstring problems.
Yes.
So these running quarterbacks, they tend to fall off because they take so many more hits because they're running.
And Lamar never slides too. He always takes the tackle.
He never slides. He's already getting hurt, and he's just 25 years old.
25, 26, yeah.
So like most guys like Cam was at least like 30-ish. No,
yeah, Cam was good for, because when did he come in? 2010, 2011, I think.
Right, about 2011.
He had a good year in 2017. Like he had that longevity at least, and obviously went to a Super Bowl.
And of course, like Lamar has an MVP on his record.
What team would you want to see him go to, or do you think is an actual like contender to get him?
I think it's Indianapolis.
That's what I've been hearing the most.
They've been in quarterback purgatory for so long, and now with Carolina jumping them to get the first pick, I'm not sure they're gonna get the guy they want. It depends. Carolina does not appear to be like they're too high on Bryce Young. They appear to be between Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud. I'm not sure who Indy wants. If they want, it looks like Stroud or Tony Richardson's going to go first. Bryson will probably go second. And then whoever Carolina doesn't take will probably go fourth to Indy. If they think they can get the guy they want, okay, they'll probably stay. Maybe even move up a pick with Arizona. Arizona is going to take a quarterback. They can probably still get Will Anderson at 4 if quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3. But if there's possibility they can get a quarterback they don't believe in, at this point their roster I think is good enough with Lamar. The receivers could do a little bit of work, but like I like Michael Pittman. I do like Michael Pierce as well. You got Jonathan Taylor behind him.
Yeah, who didn't have a crazy year last year, but
the
potential's obviously there.
We saw what he did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Defense is pretty good. I like this coaching staff there with Steichen and the staff they have over there. I think it's a better spot for him probably than Baltimore right now.
I definitely agree with that.
Which is a lot of places.
Yeah, I think a lot of places. And like, which is sad because Indianapolis is not a well-run organization. Jim Irsay is a really bad owner.
A clown.
He has drug problems.
He's
and I don't trust that team to like build a competent roster. And their reason moves at quarterback. They went from Luck, which him's retirement put them in rough circumstances, but then they went from, what did they do? It was Phillip Rivers for a year. They had Carson Wentz for a year, and I think there was one more in there too.
You have Brissett in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, the whole spring last year with you start with Matt Ryan and with the full.
That's right, Matt Ryan. Yeah, it's been one washed up scrub after another.
Exactly.
So I believe they have to try something so radically different.
Yeah.
And going after Lamar or just drafting high is the way to go, I think. So I think the fact they have those two options is good for them. Is Indianapolis a great destination for Lamar to win a ring? Probably not. No. But he's got to take what he can get.
Exactly. Like, I'm thinking, you look at spots, is there the only place where he maybe could win a ring based off the pieces is honestly the New York Jets.
Yeah.
But I'm a Jet fan. I don't think Jets win a Super Bowl anytime soon. I just don't trust this organization. We'll get to Aaron Rodgers. In a little bit. But based off the assets they have around them, that might be the best spot. But the Jets are obviously focused on Aaron Rodgers. It's been clear for a long time. Long time. The Jets made clear Aaron Rodgers made it as clear as Aaron Rodgers can possibly get, I guess. But it appears he's going there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm waiting. We'll see what happens. But
as a Patriot fan, I also do not trust the Jets to make the right move or the Jets to win. But I will say I really like the team. Saleh is a really good coach. They have a great defense and the young talent on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive rookie of the year. That's the perfect situation for a guy like Lamar to walk into, where everyone around him is getting better, where he doesn't have to pull the whole load. He doesn't have to throw for 300 and rush for 100. Yeah. That defense can win games on their own, like they did last year.
Absolutely. I mean, look, they had one of the worst quarterbacks of the last 20 years, and they finished 2 wins out of the playoffs.
Yeah. So if they just had Ryan Fitzpatrick, they would have maybe won a playoff game. I think that's how good the roster and the coach is right now.
Yeah, like I like Saleh. I'm a little concerned. It almost like he gave up down the stretch. Like his his whole thing's all gas, no brake. It felt like all brake, no gas down the stretch there. I mean, granted, his quarterback situation could not have been any
Yeah.
worse, but I feel like he gave up a little bit. I thought he could have been a little bit tougher on Mike LaFleur. I get it, it's his buddy,
Mm.
but he's obviously out of there now. I don't love them bringing in Hackett, but they're also bringing in Rodgers, and those two I think
Yeah.
together work well. Apart, Rodgers now and Hackett, especially obviously we saw what happened
Yeah.
in Denver. He's not as bad as a head coach as he won't be as bad obviously as he is a head coach. I don't know if that's even possible.
No.
But
No.
but especially if you bring out reunite him with Aaron Rodgers. But yeah, but that would be a good spot for him. I know we got Mike Tannenbaum going on first on Get Up saying they should sign him. I mean, considering how bad he was as a GM with the Jets, I don't know why we should trust him. But I would probably rather they're so far down the road of Rodgers anyway.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
But you look at the other spots besides Indy, Washington. I don't think is going to go after him.
Again, and just another horribly run organization.
Oh yeah,
another place you just don't want to see him to go, just for the sake of the guy and the sake of football. You don't want the player of that talent to go to a franchise in that much disarray.
Exactly. Yeah, there's just so much stuff going on in the organization. Nothing. It's pretty much all. It's not even on the field either.
I should say, McNeill texted Robert Kraft
saw that
to tell him that Lamar Jackson wants to come to New England and that he should go get him. As a Patriot fan, I am very entertained by that idea. And Bill Belichick has to reach a point where he realizes I'm 70. If he only plans on coaching 1 or 2 more years, he has to make an all-in move like that, like going to get Lamar. Because if he says like, oh, Mac will be ready to win a Super Bowl in 4 or 5 years, I don't want to wait 4 or 5 years because Bill might be gone. I don't want to wait till Mac Jones is playing on some crappy Daniel Jones kind of contract.
Yeah.
Eventually, they're going to have to go all in. And I think the situation for a lot of teams is that you have to make the decision when it comes to if you're in or out on Lamar. That means you're in to go win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Much sooner rather than later. And like you said, with a running quarterback.
Yeah, because of what you're paying him.
Yeah, what you're paying him, what you're going to have to give up, and that you have a running quarterback who you say, we may only have 2 or 3 really good years left before something catastrophic happens. And I think the Patriots are in that situation. So it'll be no matter where he ends up, it'll be very interesting. Even if he ends up back in Baltimore, that'll be very interesting how that all plays out.
Yeah, because like this is a guy in 5 years, he might not have anything left, which is I think why teams are hesitant. They're like, okay, look, you're a great player, but you want 5 years, $200+ million. Well, in 3 years, will you be able to throw the ball 10 yards?
Yeah, you got to take chances to win, though. You got to take chances, and you got to pay money to make money. So
yeah, into your team like Atlanta, who's like, if I'm Atlanta, they're not they're not close. I don't really think Washington's like you said is in too much disarray. Outside of the Jets and
the Jets are the best option, but that's obviously being taken by Rodgers.
But they appear to be set on Aaron Rodgers. So outside of that, I guess it's Indy, but even Indy, I don't even think it's close enough.
It's a rough year for him where there's every few years there's a big quarterback carousel where a bunch of guys are on the move. It would have been helpful if this happened to him, I think 2 years ago when a bunch of guys moved, 2 or 3 years ago, whenever it was, when a bunch of guys changed teams, and there was a really valuable opening for him to go to. Right now, nobody's moving. There's a lot of solid young guys on teams. There aren't many options for him right now.
Yeah, because I think everyone's waiting for Aaron Rodgers. Because he's like, all right, if he goes to the Jets, okay, now people, but if not, what happens? Does he go back? Does he somehow go back to Green Bay? Does he retire? Does he go somewhere else? So I think everyone's waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Everyone's waiting for them to make a move. I think so. I'm not sure if Lamar is waiting for that or not.
What if Lamar to Green Bay? Actually, doesn't seem as bad of an idea. I didn't think about it. Some decent young players. I like the coach enough. They'd have to change what they do a little bit, scheme-wise.
Yeah.
Not a little bit, a lot. But that's not the worst team he could go to, a team that could need a quarterback. They were just 1 game out of the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
With a very difficult person at quarterback, so... that just occurred to me.
I think if they sign Lamar and they draft a receiver, if you put a guy like Quentin Johnson or Jordan Addison with Christian Watson, with the running game there, that team probably wins that division.
They probably hold off the Lions. The Lions are getting better, but
Lions are getting better. They probably hold up the Lions with Lamar if they add a piece. Bears are good enough. I don't know what the heck's going on in Minnesota right now. They're,
I hate wasted talent. Justin Jefferson is the definition of wasted talent.
He is. let's move on to Aaron Rodgers. So we have a little bit of progress, a little bit.
Lose a mile, gain a foot.
Yeah, exactly. So far the structure of a deal, we have the general structure of a deal in place. Aaron Rodgers will be going to the New York Jets. The Jets will be sending to Green Bay a second-round pick in 2023, a second-round pick in 2024. That pick could become a first, depending on how well the Jets do. They didn't specify yet, probably because they're still talking about it. The deal's obviously not official yet. At this point, it might be a day, it might be a week, it might be a month. So the one thing that's holding it up, the Jets want a pick in 2025 from Green Bay in case Rodgers retires after one season. They want to give up 2 picks for a guy that's going to play 1 year.
Which makes sense. Has it been explicitly said that the pick they want if he retires is a first-round pick?
They haven't said either way.
That might be the negotiation, a second or third, something like that.
My guess is it will not be a first. Gut Knuss, the Packers GM, said that at first he came out and said a day or two ago, a first-round pick is, actually it was yesterday, I think, a first-round pick is not necessary.
Okay.
Which is why the Jets are giving up 2 seconds and the second and 24 could become a first. But I just think they just want like some extra protection, which I kind of get, but also they don't have any other options.
Exactly, yeah. They're backing themselves into a corner where you have to make the deal regardless.
Yeah, it's because there's literally nobody else. Derek Carr is he went to the Saints. Who else? Jimmy Garoppolo went to the Raiders. Even Gardner Minshew is gone. He's on the Colts. Taylor Heineke, who probably isn't even a starting caliber talent, but he has started before. He's in Atlanta.
Brady's not coming back.
Brady is not coming back. I don't even know if I would want him to come back. He didn't look. He was out. He finally
checked out.
His age finally started to show, and didn't help that he was dealing with some personal stuff.
Yeah.
His supermodel wife told him, stop playing football. And he said no. I was like, okay, well, see ya.
And he played 10 more games. That's what he sacrificed.
Yeah, 10 more games, exactly. Yeah, so only other option would be Lamar Jackson. We just did a whole segment on why that's a risky idea. So they don't have a choice but to trade for Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah, and usually you would say like, oh, great young team, draft a quarterback. You're going to draft another quarterback in the first round. Exactly. Darnold didn't work out, Wilson didn't work out. You're going to draft the third one in 5-6 years, whatever it's been. So they understand they have to go through free agency or a trade, and they want somebody who's a known commodity, who you know is going to work.
Yeah.
Rodgers, older. I think he's past his prime a little bit. I mean, the guy still won 2 MVPs in very recent memory.
Yeah.
But you still can win a Super Bowl with the guy. I think he's capable of it. Talent-wise, mentality-wise, I think that's what held him back in Green Bay. When he had a lot of great teams, they didn't win. But this is also this would only happen with Aaron Rodgers, where all this stuff becomes so public. It becomes a big circus. He goes into the darkness for a few days to make his decision, comes out, has not made his decision apparently. And I compare it to somebody like Brady. People didn't know Brady was going to the Bucs until the day it happened.
Yeah.
And people didn't know he was coming back until the day it happened.
Yeah, literally, I remember. So I remember there was rumors Brady's he's leaving. He might go with Tampa. He might go with Tennessee. He might go back to New England. So one morning, I'm watching Get Up. Whatever. This was when I was still in high school, and we're the same year, so we were all still in high school. I'm watching Get Up. Whatever. So the host is Mike Greenberg, and they have Dan Orlovsky on. Dan Orlovsky's doing a segment. All of a sudden, Mike Greenberg goes, Dan, I'm sorry to cut you off. We have some breaking news with Jeff Darlington. Dan's like, oh, okay. I'm like, what's going on? Jeff Darlington goes, Tom Brady is not returning to the Patriots. Like, whoa. But still, we know where he was going. It could have been Tampa. It could have been Tennessee. It could have been...
Chargers were on the table.
Could have been the Chargers. It could have been...
Miami. Miami tried to get him hard.
Yeah, they tried...
Way too hard.
Stephen Ross told Flores to meet him on this boat, and Flores was like...
That's so Miami. That's like a drug deal. Meet him on a boat with don't let anybody know this happened.
Yeah, Flores was like, what? No, I'm not doing that.
Flores has integrity.
Yeah, and also Flores was like, dude, I was on the Patriots staff for 10 years. I know him. It's not So yeah, I think pretty much everyone wanted them. But yes, and now but with Aaron Rodgers, it's we know he's been going to be. He's been in New York Jet. I feel for 2 months, but the
deal hasn't gone down yet. When it happens, it's going to feel like it finally happened.
Yeah.
It's similar. The only thing I can kind of compare this to was the rumors of the Harden-Ben Simmons deal went on for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then when it finally happened, it was like, okay. But we were just waiting till it was closer to the deadline when all the deals go down. This could happen at any moment. Like,
Yeah.
this could have happened a month ago just as much as next month. Like, there's no reason that it should take this long, except for they're negotiating all these things that they understandably want the protection from Rodgers, who has threatened retirement for 2-3 straight seasons now.
Mhm.
If he doesn't like it in New York, which if he has one mediocre season, if the Jets don't make the playoffs, which is potentially on the table, I don't think will happen, but if Rodgers doesn't play to his capabilities, they could miss the playoffs. The New York media is going to tear him apart, whether he plays well or not.
Oh, yeah.
Even if he wins MVP, he's still going to be such a, try not to curse, he's going to be a very difficult person. He'll be a very pissant kind of guy who is just a little bitch a lot of the times.
Yes.
And New York media is going to tear him apart no matter what. He could throw 7 touchdowns a game, but he's still going to say some stuff after the game that would be very problematic. Maybe not problematic, but it'll stir some feathers. It will make some headlines. And that's the kind of guy Rodgers is. For better or worse, his talent is undeniable, though. It's a move that has to be made.
Mhm.
The Jets are going to make the move. He has said every intention is to play for the Jets. The Jets want him. This is going to happen whether the Jets get everything they want to or not.
Exactly.
They back themselves into this corner where if they have to get a 4th-round pick in case he retires instead of a 2nd, that's what happens. But it's going to go down, but it's still a messy situation that I think will probably bleed over into the season just because the circus of Aaron Rodgers is not going to stop.
Yeah, it's never going to stop. If they miss the playoffs, that entire organization's gone. Salah is out of a job. Joe Douglas is out of a job. Nathaniel Hackett is out of a job. The entire front office is out of a job. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, within 5 minutes of the last game of the season, will go up to Willie Johnson and say, I don't know if I'm playing next year, but you'll not be with Jets, so you might as well trade me now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think if they get Rodgers, they'll be in the postseason. But he's very cryptic. He just loves the attention. Like I've never even been that big of a fan. I've been very critical of him over the last couple of years. I think he's a diva.
Huge diva.
He's a gigantic diva, and normally I would not want someone with his personality and with his background anywhere near any of my team. A guy that came near any of my teams,
especially the young guys.
Especially
not a good influence.
No, not at all. But at this point, the Jets are so desperate. At this point, they cannot roll out Zach Wilson again. They cannot do that again.
They know that, and even if I've heard some people say like, "Oh, Rodgers will mentor Wilson on how to be a better quarterback." It's like I think Wilson is a lost cause. What I saw after that 2nd season is abysmal. I predicted his downfall after his 2nd career game. Actually, it was against the Patriots, and he threw 4 picks. And the first 2 were like bad passes. The next 2 were like the worst passes I've ever seen. And then after the game, they asked him, like, "Oh, how do you feel about performance? What do you have to do?" And he was like, the 2nd career game. He said, I just got to keep trying to be me. Got to keep trying to do my thing out there. And it came back again in the 10-3 loss to New England this past season. No accountability whatsoever. Didn't feel like he let the team down when he played that horrible.
No.
And absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, just the face of entitlement, that kid.
Yeah, that just showed me he's a rich young white kid.
Yeah.
From Mormon country.
Yeah.
So he grew up with a lot of money. I mean, he went to BYU. I mean, you gotta have some kind of money to get
on scholarship too.
Yeah.
Like he was the king of that place. No one has ever said no to this kid.
Yeah, no one's ever said no to this kid, and then all of a sudden, to me, I was like, oh yeah, is there a reason why you literally threw for 80 yards in the game? He's like, no. No, I'm not gonna take accountability. And then Sal told them, well, this isn't how we do things here. And then he was like, oh wait a minute, this is a big stage.
Was he benched the next game, or was he like fully inactive?
He was. At first he was fully inactive, and then they made him the number 2 guy.
Okay.
Eventually,
inactive is like it stings even more. Like that's like a mark on your career that you were inactive at a point.
They at first he was inactive, but eventually they made him number 2.
Okay.
Which is why he ended up coming back and played those 2 games.
And Mike White played all right.
He played okay, yeah.
Mike White's a decent backup because he went to Miami, correct?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think he went to Miami, which is a good move, honestly, because Tua is probably going to miss games, and Mike White's Mike White's decent enough to hold the fort for 1 or 2 games against a mediocre opponent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, But yeah, also with the Jets, like Rodgers, I do think propels them, but they're playing in an incredibly
Yes.
tough division, and not just division, but conference as well. Like even if you get out of the AFC East, you have to worry about the Chiefs and the Chargers, two of the better teams in the league. The Raiders, you don't know what they're going to be, but in your own division, you know the Bills are one of the best teams in the league. The Dolphins are probably just as good as you with Rodgers.
Mm.
I'd say they're probably level. You definitely leapfrog the Patriots,
Yeah.
but you still have to play Bill Belichick twice a year. So it's
Which
not like you
which
can.
we have not been able to beat.
Yeah, so it's not like you can say, oh, 2-0 because we're better than them. It's like the Patriots can still beat anybody with Bill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a move they're going to make that makes them better. It probably doesn't do enough though.
Yeah, I don't think they win a Super Bowl, but at this point, what I'm hoping he plays 2 more years. So this year
Hmm.
we can get a taste of the postseason, and then next year, I mean, I mean, this organization cannot develop a drafted quarterback for their life, but maybe, next year the quarterback class is going to be much better. You got Caleb Williams coming out. You got Drake May coming out. Deion's kid apparently is very good. You got a lot of these quarterbacks coming out, so the class will be much better than this year, which is this year is kind of a mystery.
Hmm.
Bryce Young to toss up, Stroud's probably to toss up. Anthony Richardson is a mystery box, and outside of that, Will Levis, if you ask me, is Zach Wilson 2.0. It's a pretty R and nothing else,
Hmm.
and all these other guys, Hendon Hooker and Stetson Bennett, are projects. So, but next year there's probably you'll have some most likely sure things, at least a couple of them next year. So maybe the best case scenario is probably you get Rodgers, you make the playoffs this year, you draft a kid next year. Whatever happens in 24 happens in 24, and in 25 the young kid takes over.
Hmm.
But if Rodgers retires after the year, then obviously
It
now
all goes kaput.
now all right, do we draft the kid and throw him in there like we did with Geno Smith, like we did with Sam Darnold, like they did with Zach Wilson? Hasn't worked out too well. Has that?
How high a pick was Geno Smith?
He was a second rounder, Geno,
He was that high? Okay, wow.
and then but Darnold was pick 3 and Wilson was pick 2.
Yeah, didn't work out.
Definitely not.
And I want the Jets to be. I was a Patriot fan. I don't want them to be like great, but the Jets have such good fans. New York fans are great that they deserve to win for a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to be mad if the Jets have a really good team because the city deserves that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, they're desperate. Like, yes, Aaron Rodgers has his warts, but they're desperate. Just bring him in and see what happens.
Yeah, and that's how I felt. If I was a Jet fan, I'd be like, "What the hell? 1-2 years, just try an experiment. You have to try something."
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Before we wrap up, we'll talk about some basketball, and we have some opening day stuff we're going to talk about. So, NBA. So, Boston, they've slipped to second in the East. So, what are your thoughts on what's going on right now with the Boston Celtics?
They went on a really tough stretch post All-Star break.
Mm.
Tatum was incredibly inefficient. Rob Williams was still out. They have played much better as of late. I believe they've won 5 of their last 7, or it might be 7 out of their last 9 at this point now, where they've started to get back on a roll. Rob Williams has returned, and they play the Bucks on Thursday, which there's currently a game and a half out. So it's not impossible to get the 1 seed, but they're not going to get the 1 seed because I think the Bucks are they're scorching hot.
Yeah.
I think they're the best team in the league. And even from the beginning of the season, even when the Celtics were the runaway 1 seed, best record in the league, and they looked unstoppable, I just felt that they have never going to be able to beat the Bucks come playoff time. If they had to beat the Bucks in a 7-game series, if the Sixers knock them off first and you have to play Philly, you can beat Philly.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Giannis is better than Tatum. I think Chris Middleton against the Celtics and in the playoffs, he really performs. He's just as good as Jaylen Brown. They cancel each other out, let's say.
Yeah.
And Drew Holiday is better than Marcus Smart. They added Jay Crowder at the deadline, which is a great pickup to get another 3-and-D guy on that team. They've been there before. They've won before. And the Celtics obviously got some experience in the finals last year, but I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Bucks. I think the Bucks are the championship favorite right now.
I think so too. I think if Milwaukee is healthy,
Yeah, that's
I
the
don't think
biggest
anybody
thing.
beats them. That being said, Giannis, Middleton, and Drew, when they are healthy, is the best trio in the league.
Easily.
That being said, if one of those guys is out, obviously if it's Giannis, but even if it's Middleton or Drew, when one of those guys is out, that team kind of crumbles. I think if one of them is out, which isn't out of the question. I mean, Middleton got hurt in the first round last year, and which cost them, which I think Milwaukee would have probably won that series if Middleton was healthy.
Oh, they would have won the championship if Middleton was healthy. They
Probably.
went 7 games against Boston without Middleton. and it took 6 threes from Grant Williams in the Garden to beat him. The Bucks were gonna run through everybody that year if they had Middleton.
Yeah, they would have probably won the whole thing last year. So, but like, and he battled a lot of injuries this year too. And even Drew Holiday, I know Giannis is nicked up right now, but I'm sure he'll be fine.
They'll play through anything.
I mean, they probably was more precaution because they're playing Detroit. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
it's Detroit. They're the worst team in basketball.
Yeah, they're looking for Wembanyama.
Yeah, they're taking for Vic right now.
Yeah.
For Vic right now. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think if they're healthy, I don't think anybody beats them. But if Middleton goes down, I think Boston would beat them.
Yeah, if Middleton goes down, I think the Celtics can beat him again, especially because I think the Celtics are starting to play better going into the playoffs. I hope they just have to keep it up. First round will be interesting because they may have to play Miami first round, which Miami can beat the Celtics. I know Miami's been struggling this year and they haven't been that hot, but still, they kind of have your number. And I think they beat the Celtics 2 or 3 times during the season series. But I mean, out of the East, I mean, I think it's the Bucks for sure. Like you said, if one of those guys goes down, I mean, I really like the Cavs team. I think they could go on a run. Philly is great. I think Embiid is on a mission this year. I think, and I don't really believe in a lot of teams in the West, so it feels like the Bucks and everybody else, but anything can happen. There's a lot of really great teams that I could see winning it all, honestly.
Yeah. The West is weird. So you look at the team like the Dallas Mavericks. If you're a casual fan, you're like, oh my God, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, this team is gonna win it all. But then you look at the standings and they're not even in the plans. As of yesterday, they were not even in the plans.
They're out of the plan now?
As of yesterday, they were a game out of the plans.
That makes me so happy. That makes me so happy.
It's just like, what? I'm like, how do you? I'm almost impressed. That's hard to have Kyrie and Luka, plus you got guys like Christian Wood and Tim Hardaway Jr., Jason Kidd coach team. You're in your 11th in the West. I didn't even know that was possible. But like, look at the top teams. Denver. It's a one-man show over there.
Yeah, and everybody agrees Jokic is great. Denver's great. They're the 1 seed for a reason. Nobody believes in them to win a championship. Nobody.
No.
And I mean, like, Grizzlies, lots of issues. Still young. No one thinks they're going to win it all.
Yeah.
The Kings, stop it.
That's more of a
and then who else
story.
You have. I mean, honestly, if I had to pick a team right now, I like the Warriors. Just because they've been there. I mean, I don't believe in any of these other teams enough.
I see where you're coming from. At the beginning of the season, I thought they were only the 4th or 5th best team in the West, but at the same time, I thought, can England beat them in a 7-game series? If Wiggins is healthy, because of they're so experienced. If they play Sacramento in the first round, their experience might will them a round, and if they get confident enough, you never know.
They have a rough road record, though.
Yeah, but that's my thing.
Really rough.
They need to be able to win on the road.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have home court advantage.
Yeah, and one thing that does make me like to pick them out of the West is this could be Draymond's last year with the team.
Yeah.
Steph is 35. Clay's on the wrong side of 30. I think they know this is probably their last really great chance to win one. And I think they're smart enough to understand that and rally around that fact. Yeah. So, I mean, I think they could. I'm most scared of them out of anybody out of the West, honestly. Even though everybody else probably has more talented rosters, younger rosters, more to prove, that Warriors team scares me.
Yeah, I see, because this is a team that all year has been hovering on the plans, but now they're just sticking out of the plans. Looks like they might finish in that 6th spot.
And Steph missed some time too. Steph missed 3 weeks or something.
Yeah, they've had,
and they're still at the 6.
Yeah, so Steph is healthy, Clay is healthy, Draymond is healthy. The Gary Payton, who was a big part defensively last year, he debuted, well, not debut, but he made his season debut for the Warriors this year, last night. And obviously Andrew Wiggins dealing with personal stuff, but if they get him back, that's a team that, honestly, if they're confident, if they truly have their confidence, and they no, guys, this is our last chance, because like you said, Steph's much older, Clay is at the end, Draymond is at the end. I don't know if
he may not be there next year. And those 2 guys, Steph and Clay, dealing with injuries every year.
Yeah, and Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins, it almost seemed like they got their money and dipped. Yeah. This is Steve Kerr, game of the year, said, he said, look, we got a year or two left. We know it's coming to an end. He even Steve Kerr said at the beginning of the year. They know like their championship window is starting to close. They got to take advantage of it. Maybe if they have that mindset, they'll just they'll roll right through. But I don't think so. Like you said, they just cannot win on the road. And if they gotta win,
That's the only thing holding them back.
If they gotta, let's say they open up against Sacramento. Sacramento's a very good team at home. Obviously, they got the beam.
I was about to say the Sky Beam, man.
If,
I don't know if the Warriors can beat the Sky Beam.
If they go down 2-0, that's gonna be tough to come back from.
That will be. That will be really tough.
Even if you knotted up at 2, going back to Sacramento, now they gotta win, and now they get now. There's gonna be so much pressure to do something they haven't been able to do all year, and that's win a big road game. So
yeah, and it's so weird for an NBA team especially, to have this poor a road record throughout the entire season. Like there have been football
especially
teams
a team like the Warriors that's so experienced.
Yeah, and there's like been football teams who make the playoffs, but they didn't play great on the road, whatever. Yeah. But it's you can manage. But when the NBA, for them to be like 7-30 or whatever it is on the road and still be at the 6, like that is just bizarre for them to still be playing that well at home and that poorly on the road. And like I said, especially for an experienced team, it's an anomaly. It's just strange more than anything else. But yeah, it's a very worrisome sign going into the playoffs if you're that team.
Yeah, so and saying like I almost want to say Phoenix, like if KD's healthy, but like I don't trust KD with my life. Like I love Devin Booker. He's very annoying, but he is a great player. Chris Paul is not what he once was, but he can still play a little bit. I don't trust him either in the playoffs. But like
no,
but like he might be like they might be like the least bad almost because like Denver. I think Denver's got enough. It's Jokic and a bunch of Jags. And Memphis is too young. Jaws head is in 9 different places. You got
Jaws at the range.
Yeah. Sacramento, I think is a little young. Dallas is a mess. Golden State can't win on the road. They're
Lakers?
No, I say Golden State. Oh, the Lakers. Oh,
no, I'm bringing them up next. The Lakers. What do you think of the Lakers? No?
I don't see it.
Okay, yeah.
LeBron.
I don't necessarily either. I'm just saying.
LeBron's not the same. I'll give Anthony Davis about 4 days until his leg just completely falls off at this point.
He's remained fairly healthy this season, I think. Especially at least when LeBron went out.
He's missed a good amount of time, I feel like.
He's been had 3 months up. That's pretty good for him. he's been good for 3 months. But yeah, like
might be a world record for him.
But we got playoff physicality. Sorry, AD. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
But just they're hot. Obviously they get a lot of attention to the Lakers, but
LeBron.
Yeah.
LeBron.
But you mentioned this. You mentioned the Suns. I think when they traded for KD, there were 20 games left, and I thought, I don't know if that's enough time for them to really get together and gel as a team. And then he got hurt.
Yeah.
And then they've only played 3-4 games.
And then he came back and he slipped and got hurt again.
Yes. So they've only played. They're only going to end up playing like 2 games going into the playoffs together or whatever it is.
5 or if that.
Like. The talent there is enough to just throw it out there and they could go on a run, but still, like it's just such a wild card. And again, Booker and KD are 2 of the sensitive Cindy's that you really have to worry about.
Especially KD, my lord.
The ego between those 2 and sharing the ball, and CP3 is going to distribute, but he's as old as dirt, and
so he's like, people are like, oh my god, KD and Chris Paul, like Paul's having 13-6.
Yeah, he's not nearly what he used to be.
No.
And I think the leadership is still there, but you have that talent, but you have no depth. Ayton's a great player too, but people talk about, Ayton's also averaging like 24 and 10. He's gonna get like 2 shots a game now. He's gonna average like 8 and 8 now.
Yeah, exactly, because he's not gonna get the ball.
But yeah, and those guys have to come out of the game. The opposing teams are gonna go on 22-0 runs when the Suns bench has to go out there.
Yeah,
because they got nobody left.
Exactly.
And defensively too,
Yeah.
They trade away their best defensive player in Bridges, one of the best defensive players in the league in Bridges.
And Cam Johnson, their depth is
Cam
the
Johnson
same.
too, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't trust the Suns. I don't trust anybody out of the West though, but someone's gonna win it.
Yeah, someone has to win it, but who is it gonna be?
Yeah.
Honestly, someone's gonna have to get hot.
Yeah, someone will get hot. And it's the complete opposite of the East, where we look at the East and say, there's a good number of teams that I could see going to the
maybe
finals.
Milwaukee in Boston, but you know,
I think even Philly, I'd put them in that group.
Cleveland's
I think they're a
pretty
great
good.
team.
Philly's pretty good. Knicks are okay.
I like the Knicks a lot. They torched the Celtics a couple times.
Yeah.
Broke my heart twice in the past month or so.
That's right.
I have a really good team, a lot of really good young pieces. They're going to be scary in the future, but this year is probably still a little too young. Not a great team yet. But still, like the Knicks could upset somebody in the playoffs easily.
They could probably beat Cleveland in a 7-game series.
Definitely, yeah. Even though Mitchell's the best player in that series,
Oh yeah,
the Knicks have more weapons. The Knicks have a lot of
a
really
little
solid
deeper.
players. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, East, there's going to be a worthy opponent, I feel, whether it's one of those top three teams. The West, it's going to be somebody. So if I had to guess right now, I'd say whoever wins the East is going to win it all.
Yeah, oh
But
yeah.
like you said, someone's going to get hot and come out of the West. They could be really hot and go all the way. So that'll be a very, very interesting one for the finals matchup because it's different from recent years where it could be it's like one or two teams, three teams here. It's multiple teams in both conferences could come out.
Yeah. So, yeah. Before we wrap up, let's talk about opening day. Opening day is in 2 days.
Woo!
So, you're a Red Sox fan. Are you excited for the Red Sox season or no? I know
A little bit.
okay.
A little bit. They're in a retooling period. They're not. It's
Yeah.
not a full rebuild because you still have Devers. They got Masataka Yoshida,
Yeah.
who had a phenomenal
He
World
looks-
Baseball
he
Classic, a
looks-
historic World Baseball
He looks
Classic.
like something else.
I'm very excited that he's coming on, but they're definitely in a transition period. Chris Sale may play 2, maybe 3 games this year. He got hurt last year because he fell off his bicycle and had to miss the rest of the season. So the rotation is such a question mark. I'm not expecting this team to go into the playoffs. If they could sniff around 90 wins, 93 wins, like I think I'd be fairly happy if they're in the wild card conversation. I think they have talent to be there, but they're also playing in a tough division though. The Yankees are better than you. The Rays are better than you. Blue Jays probably too. Definitely the Blue Jays actually. But no, there's enough to be excited about with returning talent and some of the new talent coming in. That I am excited for the Sox season. You're a Met fan, correct?
Yeah.
Very excited year.
Yeah, it sucks losing Diaz the way that we did.
Yeah.
That was really tough. I talked about that when that happened, but I like their lineup. The good news is they're gonna get a lot of innings out of the rotation. I think with Scherzer and Verner at the top, and Kodai Senga, the stuff he was showing in spring training, I think they'll get enough innings out of their rotation where, like, they're both being a little weak, won't be as much of an issue. And I do think they will make a move eventually. Whether that is in April or whether that is on July 31st. I think they'll make a move eventually. But I think they win 90 games to go to the playoffs.
Okay, so you don't view them as contenders necessarily.
I just
they have that ceiling, but you don't think that's the realistic option. Let's say.
First of all, the Mets are a cursed franchise.
Truth.
And also, I'm just really worried about losing. That's such a huge piece to lose. And the back half of their lineup, I'm hoping Brett Beatty comes up pretty soon. But we'll see what happens. I think they got just be really, really good. I think they'll be in the playoffs. And they're neck and neck with Atlanta to win that division. They're in a very good division. The Phillies are good too. I think they're the third best team in that division, but I do think they are in the playoffs. That being said, they're also done Harper for half the year now. Hoskins for the entire year. But I do like the rotation. The rotation's much better. Even their bullpen's even a little bit better, and the lineup still is pretty strong.
Yeah, and that's the thing with
Trey Turner was looked like freaking Gary Bonds in the World Baseball Classic. Oh my god!
I don't know what he was using, but he's got to keep using it. But like when come playoff time, like you can win a series with 2 good pitchers. The Mets have 2 of the best pitchers in the last 20 years right now. So
yeah, like
they're a scary team just based off of that fact. And then you add Trey Turner making a move. You got a guy who is willing to spend his entire net worth as an owner, which is necessary to win in baseball, I feel.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, I always like the Mets because they're not the Yankees. So I wish them all the best.
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, like I feel like if they can get out of the first round, now you're seeing Scherzer and Verlander 4 times in the series. That's very, very scary.
Yeah, that's hard to beat right there. Sox also have Tristan Casas and Jeter Downs, a couple of really good prospects coming up. So that's another thing to be excited about. I'm not saying they're going to be a great team, but reasons to watch when there's been some years where there's no reason to watch.
I think Jeter Downs, didn't they cut him?
Oh, yeah, they did.
But Casas, I do like Casas. He's very good.
Because they need a friggin' first baseman. They tried to just put, I look like my uncle playing first base last year. They need somebody out there, so that's huge to get Casas. Trevor Story just had surgery, though. Like, that's the whole reason they signed him is for leverage against Bogarts. And then to basically be his replacement when they knew he was probably going to walk. And then he gets this, we know he's going to miss 4 to 6 months. It may not play till July. And so now that screws up your entire infield again. But I like Kike. I like Verdugo. I like this team. You know, it's not a team I hate. I hate Justin Turner, though. That move still baffles me. But anyway, no, baseball's a lot like football, where it's different than the NBA, at least where the team that wins the World Series almost can never be predicted.
Yeah.
Which I think, especially the Super Bowl, is one where, like, the team that wins it, you always say, like, week one, nobody would have said it, which is one of the beautiful things about the sport. Unlike the NBA, where a lot of times you can see pretty clearly, like years in advance, who's going to win.
Yeah. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you, Ryan, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome anytime. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.